The US government has just released thousands of once secret CIA files.
I believe there is a government cover-up. There's no doubt about that in my mind.
Do they reveal new details about who killed the president? Or do they confirm the official story once and for all? In this film, we return to Dallas to hear from eyewitnesses.
It's important for me as a witness for people to understand it wasn't a fatal shot. It wasn't a third shot. It wasn't a head wound. His head exploded.
Those who knew Oswald,
Mr. Lee never said anything derogatory about our country or about the president.
and experts on both sides of the debate.
I put my own life in danger trying to release this, because let's face it, if Oswald didn't do it, and we know he didn't, the real killers might still be out there.
What I am convinced of is that all the forensics, ballistics, and eyewitness testimony from that day shows that one person shot and killed Kennedy, and that was Oswald.
On November the 22nd, 1963, President John F. Kennedy's motorcade passed through Dealey Plaza in Dallas, Texas. Antoinette Glover explains what happened next.
In 1963, I came from a family that had a lot of problems. And I had in my head that Kennedy had supernatural powers. And if I could get him to look at me and to wave at me, my life would change. Somehow he would tell my dad to stop being mean or to some way intervene for it. So I had magical thinking when I went down there. I had a very specific thing I needed to accomplish. And I begged my mother. She finally took me down. And we thought Dealey Plaza would not be as crowded as Main Street. And we were right. There weren't that many people in Dealey Plaza. They were close enough I could see Jackie's eyes were brown. That's the distance that we could gauge. And they came around the corner and they turned onto Elm and everything was fantastic. And then there was a loud noise and the first bang. It was kind of buried inside of a lot of motorcycle engines. And as soon as I turned around, his head just exploded. And it's important for me as a witness for people to understand it wasn't a fatal shot. It wasn't a third shot. It wasn't a head wound. His head exploded. And when it did, the brains covered the entire inside of the car. It was gruesome. And as I watched it, Clint Hill, Secret Service, jumped on the back and Jackie jumped out of the seat to go onto the back of the car. And honestly, that is the instant where you went, oh no.
Now, obviously, a lot of people, as you know, don't believe in the official narrative. They don't believe that there was... First of all, some people don't believe it was Oswald at all. A lot of people believe there are several shooters, and they're convinced that the so-called magic bullet theory is nonsense.
People have been asking me about this for 62 years now. And I haven't stopped my life to go do research on who killed Kennedy. I don't know who killed Kennedy. I believe Oswald fired from that window. But that's where my knowledge of it stops. I have someone, and I find this amusing, so I'll tell it to you, who called me and said, and in the discussion at some point, she said, who is it that you were waving to on the school book depository front steps directly across from me? And I said, I wasn't waving at anybody over there. I was waving at the president and Jackie to try and get them to, look at me one more time. She said, no, there's a GIF that shows you waving at somebody in particular. And I said, ma'am, I didn't know anyone on the steps. I had no idea what you're talking about.
Maybe you're part of the conspiracy.
Well, at one point I had my hands over my head when they're on Elm. And I went online one day and there was that picture came up and someone said, is she signaling the assassin? And I was like, what? I was 11. I wasn't signaling an assassin. I have no idea. But that's the kind of inconsistency of stuff that gets thrown out there. And it's very hard to, get that stuff out of the internet once it goes out there.
The man accused of killing the president by the Warren Commission, the official investigation into the assassination, was Lee Harvey Oswald, a young drifter. In the weeks leading up to the fatal shooting, Oswald was staying in this Dallas rooming house, where I met Patricia Hall to find out more.
Hello.
Hello, nice to meet you.
I'm Pat Hall.
Stephen, nice to meet you. How's it going?
Doing well.
Should we have a look around?
Sure. This area was the common area, or the living room. This is Mr. Lee's little room.
Wow.
This is his bed that he actually slept on. It's not the 60-year-old mattress. A little too creepy. This is the wardrobe closet that he actually used. When Mr. Lee came back to this house right after the president was shot, he came straight to his room, changed his shirt, put on the Eisenhower jacket, retrieved his Smith & Wesson .38 revolver, and walked out.
And then he went and killed a police officer.
Well, that's what the Warren Commission says.
Okay, we'll get into that.
Needless to say, that's Mr. Lee. This is my grandmother on the night of the assassination. She's still in her waitress uniform. In '63, she had this house going with 18 roomers, had a little cafe in downtown Dallas that was open Monday through Friday for breakfast and lunch.
What's this stuff then? Is that just more sort of knickknacks and things?
More knickknacks.
Yeah.
He did have the Red Book, which is a history of the USSR.
And communism, yeah.
That was in his room. The other book is because as a child, his favorite television show was called I Led 3 Lives. It was a spy series. You could say him becoming part of the CIA was fulfilling a childhood fantasy.
Yeah. You actually knew Lee Harvey Oswald.
Yes, I did.
Can you explain your story?
Well, this was my grandmother's home. My brothers and I came here every day after school. It was your typical get the homework done, wait till our mother could pick us up and take us to our family home. My grandmother rented a room to Mr. Lee Oswald. That's how we met him, and that's why we had interaction with him on a daily basis. This family knew him as a sweet, kind, gentle young man that loved children. He really is the only roomer that ever played with my brothers. My brothers absolutely adored him. His typical day was to come home from work, go to his room for a while, come back out, and if my brothers were still watching television with me, he'd just look at them and say, "Let's go play." And out the door they'd run. That's not your typical 24-year-old.
So you didn't see the kind of communist revolutionary spy?
No, not at all. Mr. Lee never said anything derogatory about our country or about the president. The short 6 weeks he was here, every weekend he would go to Irving to see Marina and the babies. And he would take his daughter June, who was about 2 years old, and Ruth Payne's 2 children, that's who Marina was staying with at the time, take them out to play. And the neighbor kids would swarm. And he would play another 2 to 3 hours with all of those kids. That's not the actions of a killer.
It sounds to me like you're skeptical of the official narrative that Lee Harvey Oswald killed President Kennedy. Would you say that's fair? Do you agree with the official narrative?
The official narrative is a bunch of junk. No, I do not believe the Warren Commission one iota.
Patricia is not the only American suspicious of the official story. A recent Gallup poll shows that 65% believe more than one person was involved in the assassination, including possible government or CIA involvement, while only 35% believe Oswald acted alone. We went to Dealey Plaza to ask who killed JFK.
The only somebody able to get away with something like this, the people had the authority to change things. We know who that is.
So you don't believe the official narrative that it was Lee Harvey Oswald acting alone? No?
No. No, sir. Evidence shows in some of the files that has been released that reference test given Oswald shows he was not the guy in the window.
Who do you think killed JFK?
I believe he was killed by CIA, people in power, because he wanted to get rid of the Federal Reserve Bank.
And why do you think that?
Because they're always manipulating everything and telling us lies. The way they say he got killed is, I mean, that guy had to be an amazing shot, the distance, the way he was killed, and then the cover up of everything is just, it shows, you know, there is a lot of information that is not being given to us. So,
who do you think killed JFK?
Well, it was definitely CIA and Jews for sure. It had an influence on it. I mean, he wanted to stop Israel from getting nuclear weapons, which they stole from us in Pennsylvania. And he was onto that, and they faked a nuclear meeting, and JFK knew about that. And then he got killed, and then the next president signed for everything for Israel.
Who do you think killed JFK?
Lee Harvey Oswald.
So you believe the official narrative?
Yes.
So who do you think killed JFK?
I think that it was a combination of the mafia and the CIA.
Why are you so suspicious of the kind of official narrative?
I don't really trust government in the way they try to lead me most of the time. I think there's always an ulterior motive, and like I say, you follow the money and you get the real answer.
Who do you think killed JFK?
Disobedience.
Disobedience killed him?
Yes.
But do you think it was Lee Harvey Oswald, or you don't even think JFK died?
Nah. He ain't dead. Look, his pictures all over the place. How can he be dead? We still talking about him to this day. So his spirit lives on, but his body, like the exterior, it's, you know, moved somewhere else. So he's not dead. He's just resting right now.
Okay, so who killed his body, if you see what I mean? Who shot the bullet? Who do you think? Do you have a theory on that?
I don't know who shot the bullet. It was a man. I don't know his name. I mean, and even if it was his name, like, what's his middle name? Like,
Few have spent more time studying the Kennedy assassination than Robert Groden. For decades, Groden has challenged the official story.
Hello,
Hi.
Robert. Nice to meet you.
Nice
How's it
to meet
going?
you.
So you've got all sorts of JFK-related items here.
Yep. This is a Mannlicher Corcano. It's the same model, and as Oswald was, had, and that's the same scope too. This is a Corcano, which is what the Warren Commission and the Dallas police say was used to kill the president. In fact, we have a lot of evidence that's not what happened.
And are these some of the photographs you've got here that you can show us maybe?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Here are two that are really interesting. This is the view out the window.
Okay.
From the 6th floor that day. Notice the tree.
Yeah.
Okay, I know it's been cut back more than any other tree there because of documentaries, etc. So you've got a tree in the way. Those first two shots, you're shooting through a tree. Just saying. Here's the view from behind the fence. There's the X. Which would you choose? Would you wait till somebody came down the street, turned the corner, and got way down there to shoot? Or would you just shoot from here?
Notice the X on the street there?
Yeah.
Okay. I put that down there.
Really?
Yeah. The most asked question was, where was the president? Where was the president? Well, I got tired of pointing, saying there. No, not there. So I put the X in the street. It says, right down there by the X. This is, that's me with Dick Gregory and Geraldo Rivera on the TV show Goodnight America. This is when I first released the films of the assassination. Zapruder, Nixon, much more. All three of them. But Zapruder is the one that really mattered of them all.
So this is, for viewers who don't know, this is the first videotape of the actual assassination to be released.
Yeah,
and
well,
the only one?
It was a film,
Yeah.
8mm film.
Yeah.
Anyway, the film had been bought by Life magazine and withheld from public view. They published individual frames in Life magazine, but they never released the film itself. When I showed the film here, it was the first national public showing ever of the film. And that's what got the case reopened. Because of this, some congressmen had seen the film when I showed it, and they invited me to Washington, D.C., and I presented the film before Congress, and that's what got the case reopened. It's run down.
So you spent your whole life since you were 18 studying, researching the assassination of JFK.
I've been doing this for almost 62 years.
Why?
Why? It matters. You know, President Kennedy died because he believed in things that were right, and he saw that they were starting to go very wrong. He couldn't have imagined it would go as wrong as they've gone now, but he died for what he believed in. And I figured that we owe it to him to try to find the truth.
And who do you believe killed JFK?
Individuals or groups?
Individuals. Let's start there.
We really don't know. We don't know. You asked me that question one more time.
Who do you think killed JFK?
Not Lee Harvey Oswald. We don't know who did it. We really don't. We know it was not Oswald. We know it was no one person alone. That it was actually a conspiracy. There were shots from the front and from the rear.
So what do you say to the people who call you a conspiracy theorist, who, you know, say after 60 years, we would know this information, someone would have come out, you know, they would have they would have wanted money or publicity or whatever. There's been so much investigation into the case.
The people that say those things, don't know the evidence in the case, don't know the confessions that have happened, which may be totally false. We don't know. But there's been a lot of evidence, medical evidence too. My interviews with more than 20 of the Dallas doctors, I now have 79 witnesses to the president's head wounds, and they're absolutely the same thing. Every single one of them said the bullet entered above the right ear in the right temporal area and blew out the back of the head. And in my book, JFK, Absolute Proof, I have the testimony, the statements of all 79 of those witnesses. And they couldn't all be wrong. I wouldn't accept that 3 of them were wrong.
So how many books have you written about JFK?
8.
8. And you've got, is it 18 films of the assassination that you put together? How many was it?
Yeah, I released 18 films of the assassination, 2,200 photographs.
In fact, we've got a photo. Why don't we quickly, have you got the photo?
There we are. That's the kids. That's my wife, Janet, and that's me.
And this is at Dealey Plaza, where you're getting married.
Right, that's the pergola right behind us there.
Wow. So your wife is really into the JFK assassination as well, interested in the case.
Yes.
And you did you meet at Dealey Plaza?
We met in Dealey Plaza about 22 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, and met again.
I suppose the point I'm trying to make is you're so interested in this case. Obviously, you mentioned earlier that it's important because Kennedy was trying to do a lot of things and he was murdered. But some people might say, well, it is important, but it happened a long time ago. You know, let's move on, or there's been so much interest in the case. I'm just curious as to why you've spent so much of your life dedicated to this.
It matters. It matters. John Kennedy was a good man. Perhaps the last real president we've ever had. And he died because he was trying to make things right for all of us, for ourselves and our kids. I put my own life in danger trying to release this. Because let's face it, if Oswald didn't do it, and we know he didn't, the real killers might still be out there.
So you think your life is in danger?
Well, it's possible it was. And I didn't really stop to think about that until after I went public. December of 1983, my house was firebombed. 2 Molotov cocktails. These are the newspapers stories right here about the firebombing. I've been attacked in the plaza several times. Once by a character that they called Cowboy, and they came out with a hunting knife.
Will you ever be satisfied?
If we found out who actually really did do it, or to clear Oswald's name, whatever happened to him could happen to any of us at any time. Any civil right that he doesn't have or didn't have, we don't have. It doesn't work for everybody. It doesn't work for anybody.
For more than 60 years, thousands of CIA files related to the murder have remained secret. New York lawyer Larry Schnapf has fought the US government in court to force the release of these hidden documents.
Yeah, I believe there is a government cover-up. There's no doubt about that in my mind. The question is, really, was the government involved in the planning of the assassination? And that's a difficult question. And when you mean by the government, what do you mean? Do you mean like the very top echelons? I have friends who genuinely believe that President Johnson, when he was vice president, was involved in the planning of the assassination. I have friends who believe that the former CIA director, Allen Dulles, or top generals, that they were behind the assassination. And I find that hard to believe.
So when it comes to these new files they've released this year, was there anything surprising to you in those files or anything that backs up your theories?
So I personally never expected to see a memo, here's how we're going to kill the president. Okay? And I don't think that exists. What we're doing is we're getting... so the same reason that the CIA doesn't want a seemingly innocuous document to be released, they use what they call the mosaic theory, which is that this particular document may not have anything important in it on its face, but there could be something in there that is like a piece of a puzzle that allows our adversaries to figure out things. Now, some interesting things did come out about the way our government, the American government, conducted its foreign policy during this time. We've learned about how much money we were spending in Cuba to try to, kill Castro. We learned more about our agents that were in Cuba that were using to kill Castro. But as far as the assassination attempt itself, there hasn't been the information that the important information we're seeking is still out there.
When President Trump returned to the White House earlier this year, he agreed to release thousands of CIA files on the assassination. These new files return attention to Oswald's curious connections with Cuba. He publicly supported Fidel Castro's communist regime, even forming a one-man pro-Castro group in New Orleans. Yet in the same period, he approached an anti-Castro student organization offering his services. That group, the DRE, was secretly funded and aided by the CIA. Some researchers believe this shows Oswald may have been working with US intelligence.
There is one file or one interesting take from this that the CIA had more connections with Oswald than we first realized. And I know that there is some interesting new information on that.
So what we're seeing is that the CIA claimed they really didn't have much knowledge about Oswald. As it turns out, we now know that the CIA was reading his mail and that this guy, Joanides, had to know about Oswald because he was supervising the group that had encounters with them, and that he actually told them, he's the one that directed them the day of the assassination to release the information they had on Oswald. So we now know the CIA actually knew more about Oswald than they said they did. Now the question is, were they running him? Was he a witting agent? Was he an unwitting agent? Were they just, we knew he was a spy wannabe. His favorite TV show growing up was I Led 3 Lives. The Spy Who Led 3 Lives, something like that. He wanted to be a spy. And so I think that somebody was manipulating him to be in the right position at the right time and doing things that made him look like, a Castro sympathizer.
To understand what the new files really show, I spoke with Gerald Posner, who has spent years debunking conspiracy theories about Kennedy's assassination.
I've been interviewing a lot of people who believe that the CIA killed JFK. I've interviewed people in Dallas, just members of the public, a woman who actually knew Lee Harvey Oswald. There's a few other people who've done a lot of research into the case. Now, I know that you don't agree with that hypothesis, so can you just take us through your own research and what you believed happened on that November day?
Yeah, I mean, I understand that most people, if you stop them on the street, are going to think there's a big conspiracy in who killed Kennedy. The culprit of the moment that's the most favorable, that's trending, is clearly the CIA. And you'll talk to people nonstop who will tell you that the agency was behind the assassination. In the end, Steve, I'm willing to believe anything. You just need to show me the evidence. So what I am convinced of is that all the forensics, ballistics, and eyewitness testimony from that day shows that one person shot and killed Kennedy, and that was Oswald. Then the tougher question is, was he doing it for himself, or was he prompted to do it for some group? That's where the evidence fails to show that anybody actually put him in that 6th-floor window shooting at the president.
So there is some evidence in the new files that were just released by the CIA that they had lied about their knowing about Lee Harvey Oswald's activities in his sort of pro-Cuban groups, in his relationship with a CIA operative who was trying to organize resistance against Castro. The CIA had previously denied that this kind of relationship existed, that they even had this operative. So can you talk a bit about this new evidence and what that reveals to you?
Yeah, I mean, this is the most amazing part, is that so that you understand this. A lot of journalists are unfortunately lazy, so they don't do the real work. And what they do is they take a story or a headline or a summary by somebody else, or they talk to so-called, people who have looked at the files, and then they come to a conclusion. So the Washington Post the other day ran a headline based upon its conversations with a CIA, sort of what I call a conspiracy entrepreneur. He has a Substack that he monetizes. He has been a longtime proponent of the idea that there's more to this case than we thought. It's hidden in the files of this former CIA agent called Joanides. And as a matter of fact, I joined him together with Norman Mailer and other writers back in 2003, asking for the CIA to release these files, because I'm a big believer that the CIA has lied consistently. I call it out in my book on this case 32 years ago. CIA lied to the Warren Commission. They hid the fact that they were trying to kill a head of state, not Kennedy, but Castro, together with the mafia. They hid their own secrets, their miscues, embarrassing covert operations. They had nothing to do with the cover-up of a murder, but all to do with protecting their own bureaucratic asses. And for that, they've misled the American public, and they're to be damned. It's taken them 22 years since I joined Jefferson Morty in asking for the Joanides file to be released. And guess what? It's finally released. And when I went through it, I'm one of those people who didn't rely on somebody else to take a look at it, as the Washington Post did. I read every page of it, and I will tell you unequivocally, and I challenge anyone to say differently, although I know Morty will, this was a tremendous disappointment for those who have held out for so many years to believe that this file would provide the final information about what they had called in earlier years Operation Oswald. They thought the CIA had an Operation Oswald. They were following him. They were making him a covert or a double agent, and somehow none of that's in here. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you, not only is none of that in there, the word Oswald isn't mentioned. It's not just that you don't get a document saying, oh, by the way, here's a conspiracy. You want to talk about the mosaic theory? Guess what? You need little bits of the mosaic to fit together to a puzzle beyond just smoke. And what do you have here? You don't even have the evidence in this file that Joe Anese, the CIA agent at the heart of all of these conspiracy theories, even knew Oswald or had heard Oswald's name before November 22nd, 63, when the president was assassinated. So to me, this is sort of the final door in this. But I guarantee you, I know this from having looked and researched this case for a long time, this will not end it. They, meaning those who think it's a conspiracy, will find another thread, or they will say, oh, there's another document. You know what? This one didn't answer, so we need to get that one. And then when they get that one and it doesn't answer, they'll say, we need to get over there. There's another one. And if none of them prove it in the end, what they will end up saying is, you know what? They must have destroyed the key documents. We still know it was a conspiracy somehow.
The newly released CIA files do not offer any fresh evidence of a conspiracy, yet the Kennedy assassination will continue to grip Americans, and no new documents are likely to convince those who don't believe in the Warren Commission's findings. The debate will endure, but the facts, as far as these new files show, remain unchanged.
Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe